Assalamu alaikum and good day to everyone. My name is Kamal Aikal bin Dahlan and I'm from Group D. Today, my colleagues and I are going to talk about a particular threat that is very prevalent around us, but it's something that it's hard for us to see, and yet we also consume it every day. What am I referring to? Well, allow me to introduce the topic for today's speech, which is titled The Detriments of Microplastics, a micro threat to marines and humans alike. This topic is imperative to be talked about because microplastics have detrimental impact on our health and also to the environment. So what constitutes as microplastics? Microplastics are small fragments of either broken down plastic or microplastics that have been intentionally produced for commercial uses. They can be found in oceans, bodies of fresh water, estuaries, and in some cases, remote Arctic ice as well. The reason why they're so abundant in these places is because of decades of pollution, not only from individuals like you and me, but also from corporations, organizations, and companies that want to find a cheap way to dispose of these plastics. Microplastics could become a threat because they are considered bioaccumulating pollutants in the marine ecosystem that can potentially compromise the abilities of the ocean to deliver critical ecosystem services. In the last decade, however, microplastics has seen a large increase in investments in order for us to better understand it in the research field. Where do these microplastics come from? As aforementioned, these microplastics can come from either being broken down or manufactured. In the case of being broken down, they can be broken down from the effects of the sun, the ocean waves, or even the winds. Some examples would be cigarette filters, textile fibers, plastic items, especially the disposable ones, or even dust from cars and truck tires. For microplastics that have been produced, some examples would be noodles, microbeads, and fibers. These types of microplastics can enter the environment via leakage during the production of the microplastics, during transportation, or even during usage of the product. From these two types of microplastics, scientists have separated them into their own types. The first one, primary microplastics, are the ones that have been manufactured for commercial uses, while the other one, secondary microplastics, are the ones that have been broken down by larger plastic items. Hence, microplastics are imposing a threat to the very same environment that we are currently living right now. With its micro size, it's forgivable for the general population to overlook microplastics as a threat, as they can barely even see it. Knowing what they are and how they came to be, it's easier for us to tackle this issue and have a discussion on how to manage the consequences that microplastics can have to marines and humans.
Assalamualaikum. I am Amirul Syahmi bin Anuar with matrix number A163471, and I will talk about plastics and microplastics production. First of all, what is plastics? For most of our history, humans used stuff we found in nature to build the things we needed. But the invention of plastic roughly 100 years ago completely changed our world. Plastic is made from polymers, long repeating chains of molecule groups, but it's also possibly to create them. By breaking down crude oil into its components and rearranging them, we can form new synthetic polymers. Synthetic polymers have extraordinary traits. They are lightweight, durable, and can be molded into almost any shape. Not requiring time-consuming manual work, plastic can be easily mass-produced and its raw material are available in vast amounts. Today, almost everything is at least partly made from plastic. Our clothes, our phones, our computers, furniture, appliances, houses, and cars. Plastic just appears and goes away. Since synthetic polymers are so durable, plastic takes over between 500 to 1,000 years to break down. But somehow, we collectively decided to use this super tough material for things meant to be thrown away. 40% of plastics are used for packaging in the United States. Packaging makes up 1/3 all the waste that is generated annually. Since its invention, we have produced about 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic. 335 million tons in 2016 alone. More than 6.3 billion metric tons of plastic have become waste since 1907. Piled up in one place that makes a cube with a side length of 1.9 kilometers. So what we do with all this waste? 9% was recycled, 12% was burned, but 79% of it is still sticking around still. A lot ends up in the ocean, around 8 million tons a year. There is such plastic that will outweigh all the fish in the ocean by 2050. Because it's everywhere, marine animals keep getting trapped in plastics and swallowing it. Many animal stuffs with stomachs full of indigestible trash. In 2018, a dead sperm whale washed up in Spain. He had eaten 32 kilos of plastic bags, nets, and a drum. While this is tragic and makes for great magazine covers, there is an even more widespread, invisible form of plastic. That is microplastics. Microplastics are pieces smaller than 5 millimeters. Some of them are used in the cosmetics or toothpaste, but most result from floating waste that is constantly exposed to UV radiation and crumbles into smaller and smaller pieces. There, the plastic parts disintegrate by heat wind and wave bit by bit into even smaller parts known as microplastics by definition. Research have seen 51 trillion such particles float in the ocean, where they are even more easily swallowed by all kinds of marine life. This has raised concerns among scientists, especially about health risks from the chemicals that are added to plastic. We need a lot more research before panic is justified. But just to make sure we should simply ban plastics? Unfortunately, it is a bit more complicated than that. Plastic pollution is not the only environmental challenge we face. Some of the substitutes we had used for plastic have a higher environmental impact in other ways. Plastics also help solve problems that we don't have very good answer for at the moment. Globally, 1/3 of all food that is produced is never eaten and ends up rotting away on landfills where it produces methane. And the best way of preventing food from spoiling and avoiding unnecessary waste is still plastic packaging. It's also important to note where the vast majority in the world's plastic pollution is coming right now. 90% of all plastic waste entering the ocean through rivers comes from just 10 rivers in Asia and Africa. The Yangtze in China alone flushes 1.5 million tons of plastic into the ocean each year. The bottom line is, as long as we don't address plastic pollution from a global perspective, we will not solve it. Plastic pollution is a complicated problem. We found a magic material and we had a really good time with it. Your individual daily actions still have a huge impact. Refuse disposable plastics. Convince your friends and family to do the same. Pressure companies and politicians to take the necessary steps to keep our oceans clean and our food safe. Together we can beat plastic pollution.
The subtopic that I'm going to discuss today is the consequence of microplastic to human, marine, and plant, since an awareness of the detrimental effect microplastics on marine life, human health, and plant will help prevent and mitigate the problem. Firstly, I will go to my first point, which is the innocuous effect of microplastic pollution in the marine ecosystem. Generally, marine ecosystems are aquatic environments which consist of unique biotic living and abiotic factors. Microplastics are persistent and free-floating pollutants in the maritime environment, and due to their small size, they can easily get into the bodies of animals as well as coral reef. Then it will result in serious disease to organisms that are exposed to these pollutants. That said, there are several factors that microplastic pollution can affect marine organisms, including mechanical effects and physical effects. One of the physical effects is they block the digestive tracts, diminish the urge to eat, and alter feeding behavior, all of which reduce growth and reproductive output. Their stomachs are stuffed with plastic. Some species starve and die. Moving forward to my second point, the harmful effect of microplastic to human health. Not just animals, we humans also get affected by this pollutant. The general human population may be exposed to microplastics from different sources, from the air we breathe to both the tap and bottled water drink, the food we eat, and the clothes we wear. Moreover, plastic isn't one thing. It comes in many forms and contain a wide range of additives such as pigment, ultraviolet stabilizer, water repellents, and flame retardants. Hence, we absolutely cannot avoid this pollution. To some extent, flame retardants may interfere with brain development in fetus and children. Same goes to other compounds that cling to plastic which can cause cancer or birth defects. For the reason, they can cause alteration in human chromosome. On this wise, detailed analysis and assessment of the potential health risks should be carried out to evaluate the causative risk of contaminated marine food on human health. My last point is microplastic pollution has a ruinous effect on plants. Different plant species in a community could be affected to a different degree by the addition of microplastic. One of the direct effects of microplastic is the reduction of soil bulk density, which translates to an altered soil pore structure and water transport. Not to mention, contaminants with certain properties could enrich such particles and they could potentially be stable for a longer period of time. As a result, microplastic may have the potential to affect plant diversity and community composition.
Hi, my name is Afnan bin Fahimi and I will be speaking about my subtopic, which is the management of the microplastic waste. It is important to manage the microplastic waste because it can help to reduce the environmental and also health problem. I have three main points to support my speech. The first point is about the improvement of the legislation on the microplastic pollution. By improving the legislation, it is an important basis to strengthen the control of the plastic pollution. A specific implementation in the production area, for example, it can give a clear responsibility for each department and also person in charge. We can also specify a detailed rule for the punishment of the offender. For the next point, which is the prioritization of the recycling. We have a primary recycling that generates a high quality plastic. We also have a secondary recycling that generates a low quality plastic. Both methods can generate a plastic that is used from a plastic waste or a microplastic waste. Hence, recycling considered as a preferred method of the waste management because it can save the resources and also a low energy consumption, which generally benefit the society and also cost friendly. And the third point is about using the bio-based plastic as the alternative. A significance of a sustainability awareness has increased the urgency for more research to increase the waste management. A biodegradable polymer usually undergoes a process of degradation in the water with a natural action because they have a degradable polymer inside of the plastic that break down easily by the UV radiation. This is a game changer in a plastic production. As a conclusion, a management of plastic has led to a large accumulation in the environment. A life cycle of the plastic must be improved through the strengthening of the legislation and also increase of the innovative research of the recycled plastic. In addition, an integrated waste management system can be considered significant to reduce the environmental impact of the microplastic waste.
As a recap, the existence of microplastics come with consequences not just to marine life but also to humans. There have been records suggesting that microplastics can be found in not only in planktons, as small as planktons, but also as large as whales. This is due to microplastics being able to bind with other chemicals before being ingested by these marine organisms, and humans aren't really exempted because we unknowingly digest microplastic particles almost every day from commercial seafood, from biomedical products, from food containers, and even from drinking water. On average, humans inhale 70,000 plastic particles, and that is why microplastics management should and must be implemented to avoid or mitigate such occurrence from happening in the future, as detailed by my colleague previously. However, considering that microplastics are a newly founded phenomenon the last decade, there hasn't been much research made, if at all. Some scientists are unsure whether microplastics can become a threat to humans. World Health Organization has claimed, and I quote, microplastics are increasingly found in drinking water, but there is no evidence so far that this poses a risk to humans. But there has been some evidence that microplastics can move across cells in our body and can affect the immune system and our cell health. Despite not many research on microplastics, one thing is for certain. They come from plastics, which has been notorious for being environmental threats. A 2017 United Nations resolution discussed microplastics and the need for regulations for this hazard to be reduced to our oceans, our wildlife, and human health as well. Organizations worldwide are calling for steps to reduce microplastic marine waste and also more scientific research to be made for us to better understand it. Regardless if they are harmful or not, plastics do not belong in the ocean, and it's better for us to take these steps to be safe rather than sorry. That is all from us from Group D. Thank you for watching and listening. Have a nice day.